I want to thank Senator Darren Thorne for making the drive. That's pretty cool because he said, I'll drive down. No, so he made the drive from Hampshire County on those icy roads and spent an hour with us, and we appreciate that. And I know a lot of members of our audience did too because I can see the comments. And you made some of you didn't agree with everything or even some of the things that Senator Thorne said, but you appreciated his frankness. And that's all we can ask for.
Yeah, and also appreciate the fact that he's a very thoughtful individual. He is a man of conviction, and we all appreciate that. But I did not find him to be argumentative. I did not find him to be arrogant. I found him to be very much a concerned individual that I think will do a very good job or do a good job as senator.
I think impressed. A lot of people out of their politicians, they just want someone who's going to answer your question and not give you a bunch of runaround and word speak. And Senator Thorne's one of those people who'll give you an honest answer.
Yeah. I was impressed. Yeah, I mean, he was a straight shooter. He wasn't sugarcoating. He just said what he thought, which is a lot like our next guest, who, is not afraid to say what he believes, and he's got the courage of his convictions.
You may be promoted to host when I'm gone because you just did the transition to S. Marshall Wilson. Yeah. Marshall, good morning.
Thank you,
Good
Rob.
morning, gentlemen. I'm honored to be here. And Darren, thanks for making me look bad. I couldn't even come up from South Berkeley. But I want to echo what y'all said about Senator Thorne. He's a fine gentleman, and I have a lot of respect for him.
Yeah, let me just say, you said it. I didn't have to, but he made the drive from Hampshire, Marshall, and what are you, 5 miles away? You couldn't make the drive.
It's at least 7.5.
That's fine. You were in D.C. Yesterday, and you had some pretty interesting experiences, including one at Arlington National Cemetery. Can you share some stories?
Absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity. So I was invited out to take part in a veterans mission. Of course, for me, everything's a mission. But anyway, the idea was to escort some VIPs at Arlington for the laying of the wreath at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. I was greatly honored. And even put on a suit for the affair and was ready to go. Showed up at the front gate over an hour early because, when you're a grunt, you show up early, right? Mm-hmm. And was turned away. It was told that no one except the actual principals were allowed inside. And, all the noise about the weather and the cold, it was pretty freaking cold. Don't get me wrong. I was freezing. But the point is that this was not an indoor affair. And so everybody talking about how they moved indoors because of the cold. This was an outdoor event, and it went on. I just wasn't allowed to attend. And, being who I am and what I do for a living when I'm doing it, it was very clear to me that this is a security issue, not a weather issue. So I thought that was pretty telling. But I stood outside and met a lot of great people, starting with the small group of veterans that I was supposed to be working with who were as disappointed but understanding as I was. And then we met people from all over the planet who had come to Washington, D.C. for this weekend, for this event, for the inauguration of Donald Trump, because they, in their own words, the gentleman from England told me, we have no liberty. In the home of freedom of speech, it no longer exists. They're sending people to jail because they say things they don't like. And they said that they came, various forms of this, they came to Washington, D.C. to watch as the last chance for Western civilization took place.
That's a lot of responsibility.
Of Donald Trump.
And you got into Capital One Arena? That was a tough ticket.
Package with I'm sorry, Rob, that's why I don't like to be on the phone. I talk over you. I don't mean to.
No, you're good.
Sorry, I don't mean to be rude.
No, you're good.
Rob, you shouldn't have told him not to come in and to be on the phone, Rob. Marshall, we're blaming Rob, okay?
That's very gracious of you. So, I was waited in line for over 3.5 hours out in the cold, and forgot my gloves and hat at home, which was smart of me. And met some really interesting people in line. And then this French journalist came through, and she was interviewing people. And she talked with me, and I said all the things you've heard me say 4,000 times. And it sounded to her like foreign language. That was supposed to be a joke.
Yeah, I got you.
But, she said, I don't know what you're talking about. And I said, you're French. You fought with us, and it's sad, but the Western world has lost its footing, and of course the footing of Western civilization, it's 3 pillars. It's Athens, Jerusalem, and Rome, logical thought from Athens, Jerusalem, the Judeo-Christian ethic, and of course Rome is the rule of law, and we've just completely lost it. everywhere except here. And if things had gone differently, there wouldn't be much hope for us right now with this presidential election. But I also have some concerns about where we're headed now. Of course, I can't just be happy about everything. One of the things that I observed was this, rather than, okay, so I've studied history. I spent a lot of time studying history, the history of Western civilization, politics, all that kind of stuff. And we are now at the point where the Roman Republic fell and the Roman Empire was established. That's exactly where we are. I am not saying that Donald Trump intends to establish an empire. What I'm saying is I heard a lot of people saying that they wanted him to do that. They talked about his sons as the heirs to the throne, and they called him Daddy and King. I actually heard him called King, and it really concerned me. Now, if 3 people had said it and they were kind of goofy, that wouldn't have bothered me so much, but it was basically the general attitude of most of the people I spoke with. Now, I'm glad he was elected. I voted for him. In West Virginia, it wasn't necessary to campaign for him, but I voted for him, and I'm glad that he won. But you have to be loyal to principles rather than men, and you have to hold those men accountable to those principles. And I think that the first, 200 executive orders that he signed, almost half of those were actually rescinding Biden's executive orders. And you guys have heard me say probably a number of times. As a matter of fact, I took Jim Justice to the West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals over this. You don't issue executive orders to the people. Now, each of these was to executive agencies. I've read them, which is good. That's the way it should be. But the chief executive should not rule by fiat. And again, he was rescinding a bunch of Biden's stuff. So it looks to me like he actually used the power Biden used to establish fiat in order to dismantle that mechanism of fiat. I don't know if I'm talking in circles here.
No, you're good.
For most people, but okay.
You're good.
So I actually approve of that, but I'm still concerned about the way that we're headed because everybody seems to be really happy with the idea of Donald Trump. Well, not everybody, but the people that I met there seem to be really happy with the idea of Donald Trump just seizing control of the reins of government and imposing his will on it. Now, part of the problem that has led us to where we are now is that instead of being a constitutional republic where everyone has their say, and then the government tries to do what is in line with the constitutional principles, and then provide everyone a say in their government. What we've got now is we've basically got a country where the people are trying to get their team to win and get its hands on the levers of power so they can stick it to the other side. I get it. I do. I'm as vindictive and angry about what's been going on as anybody else. But also, I have to understand that my vindictiveness has to be curbed. It has to be disciplined. And I'm sorry, I'm preaching again, Rob.
No, dude. Hey, Marshall, I'm going to tell you something.
Yes,
what you are saying is 100% truth. And it would take a person like you who's not afraid to piss off Republicans to say it. And it's one of the reasons why I like talking to you is because you're not afraid to take on your own people, right? And too many people are. Congress has abdicated its responsibility to govern for many years. And the point you're making about kingship is amplified by the current Congress as well, which seems to want to take no steps toward offending President Trump for sheer fear of repercussions within their own party.
Yes, sir.
And there's nobody calling this out in the Republican Party. And I know you're not a Republican any longer,
well,
but you're the first person of a conservative belief system who's done it. And I salute you for it because everybody else is scared to death to do it.
Well, and full disclosure, I've actually applied for a couple of jobs within the Trump administration, and it looks like I have a pretty good chance of getting at least one of them, or being offered at least one of them. And it's probably foolish of me to say the things that I'm saying right now, because I really want one of those jobs, in national security, which is, that's what I do.
Yep.
Have my master's in national security, and I'm working on my PhD. And that's, I was as you know, a retired infantry officer, and that's what I do, an operational planner. And I want to help. I want to help with what they're doing. I want to help make our armed forces lethal and effective instead of a testing ground for social engineering. We need to go back to what we're our mission. And I heard words last night that I don't really want to sound like a wiener, but thrilled my heart. My heart welled up with hallelujah to hear the discussions last night about national security and the border and how we're going to be an actual country that protects its citizens and their rights again. And again, always in the back of my mind was that everyone is so excited and everyone is giving him so much credit and so much acclaim, and God help us worship that, we're putting ourselves in a bad position if we don't rein it in and just get down to the work. Now, he did get down to the work. He did, immediately. J6 prisoners released. That should have happened. As you guys know, I was at the Capitol on January 6th. Why they never came looking for me, I don't know. I've got pictures and statements all over Facebook that I was there. I got a picture of me standing right in front of the Capitol eating a bologna sandwich.
You didn't go in, though, did you?
No, I didn't. But, I was there. Nobody said anything to me. But the point is that I'm glad he pardoned the J6 prisoners.
But he pardoned all of them, even the violent offenders, Marshal, and that offends me. I can see if you were walking through the Capitol, you didn't, other than trespassing, you didn't assault a police officer, you did your time. Okay, get out. That's fine. But the people who are trying to crush police officers in the door, who are going at them with flagpoles and whatever, and this is personal to me because my next door neighbor is one of those guys who works there.
Yeah.
To pardon those people tells me the Republican Party has decided to posture on their back the blue and their accusations of you're soft on crime. We're not. Well, now you are.
I agree with you on that. So what about a commutation of their sentence because they didn't get due process?
Hey, due process is a very important constitutional part of the entire legal and judicial system. And if due process is violated, that needs to be dealt with. I don't disagree with that. Everybody, the worst of us, is entitled to due process.
Here's how I propose that it should have been dealt with. Their sentences should have been commuted. They should have been released immediately. And the people who denied them due process should have been put in prison.
That's been cut off because of preemptive pardons.
Right. Exactly.
I want to talk to you about the Constitution Party, and I know Bill and John have some questions for you too. But you got your hard work, and I'm not saying you did this alone, but you were certainly at the forefront of it. I know you don't want to take the credit for all of it, but your work on getting the Constitution Party access on the ballots has been nothing short of impressive, sir.
Well, I'm honored that you think so, and like you said, I had a great team. And just for the record, my team was a bunch of a bunch of West Virginians who volunteered. A bunch of those people were Republicans. A bunch of them were independents. There were a few libertarians. There were people who actually registered to vote just to vote in this election because they believed in what we were doing. But this was a huge effort, and it was executed statewide by a bunch of volunteers, people who got nothing out of it other than seeing us succeed. I mean, as a matter of fact, a lot of them lost money, lost time. The investments that these individual citizens made were, I'm not going to say heroic. I hate when people use that word because they don't know what it means, but were huge, the investments they made. And I'm honored to know them, to serve with them, and to keep serving with them. And we have a meeting on February 1st at the Rock Church, and I'll get you that address in just a second, in Parkersburg at 2 p.m., 2 in the afternoon, Parkersburg Rock Church, and we're going to discuss our path forward. And now that we have ballot access, we're actually a recognized party in West Virginia, we can just put people on the ballot, just like the Republicans and Democrats do. So we are recruiting candidates for county commission, governor, anything in between. President, if you want, we'll send you to the national convention, see if you can get nominated. But we need good people who are tired of the clown show and who simply want to uphold their kids' constitutional rights. You don't have to be a genius. You don't have to have a PhD. You don't have to have a background in please, God, please don't have a background in politics. Just be a civilized, decent human being who believes in telling the truth and standing up for what's right and good and true. And we'll get you on the ballot and see if we can help you get elected.
John or Bill, who wants to go
ahead,
first?
John.
Well, I got to ask this. Are you going to actively go out and recruit in all the districts to make sure that the Constitution Party has people on the ballot? What is the method that you're using to try to recruit people?
We absolutely are. This meeting is the first step. Meeting on February 1st at the Rock Church in Parkersburg at 2 p.m. is the first step. That's where we're going to sit down. We're going to plan out our strategy, and we are going to take a strategic approach, Bill. I know that that's the way you understand things. We don't have the resources to just, throw people on the ballot all over the state. We wouldn't want to do that. We want quality people. So what we're going to do is we're going to target specific districts. We're going to find problematic legislators who need to be replaced, problematic council members. We're going to strategically target important targets, and we're going to work really hard to get our people elected.
Will you be running for governor again in 4 years? I know it's awfully early, but when you are a minority party, I mean, the earlier you start, the more ground you can cover, and the more you can create a groundswell like you did. I mean, you got an amazing amount of votes for where you started.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you. It is not my intent. But I will do whatever it takes to ensure that my kids can live in a free, just, prosperous, and secure land. I don't want to do it. I didn't want to do it this time. I didn't want to be a delegate. But we do have a couple of other great candidates who are members of the Constitution Party who have shown themselves lovers of liberty, have sacrificed and been punished for standing up for what they believe is right, who are intelligent, capable leaders. And, I'm hoping that one of them will pick up the mantle and run with it. Because, frankly, I've made myself odious to a few of our friends because I speak so strongly, and that's a shame. I never intend to offend people. I simply intend to speak the truth, and when I'm wrong, I can be corrected. I've been told a number of times that I was wrong and given evidence of that, and I accepted it. But what I won't do is just back down because somebody's mad at me.
Better than being odoriferous.
I think it's just odiferous. I think you put an extra syllable in there. Yeah. Mr. Stubblefield.
Yeah. Good morning, Marshall. Thanks so much. And
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought the last speaker.
No, that was John.
No, it was me, Jonathan.
We knew that.
My bad, John.
But John asked good strategic questions.
I was so strategic that it seemed as if I was channeling the Admiral.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I was really enjoying your and Rob's discussion earlier. In fact, I was perfectly content to just sit back and listen because I thought it was good information. And kind of picking up on what you heard from the folks yesterday, this comes back to the inaugural speech. We are a divided nation, and the folks that you were talking to in line yesterday represents part of that. There is another equally vocal group that views quite differently. I think one thing everybody has in common, they believe they're promoting liberty. They believe they're promoting the Constitution. They believe what they're doing is right and the best for the country. Of course, the other side do not accept the fact they are right, but they do believe they're right. The speech yesterday was one I viewed to be of anger and retribution. Where do we go from here? How do we try to make us a nation, a whole nation again, as opposed to a nation that's splitting apart, and every day we split apart even more and even faster?
Yes, sir. Well, that's the real question of the essence, isn't it? I think that what has to happen is that power has to be taken out of the hands of government, leaving it only with its licit powers, its actual constitutionally assigned powers under the principles of the Declaration of Independence, which says, of course, that to secure these rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, governments are formed among men, governments institute among men. And it was interesting to me that last night, when section of the Declaration of Independence was quoted that leads up to that, they stopped short, as everybody always does. They stopped short of the phrase that says, to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, because They're like, oh, it's all about life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. We define those however we want to, and then whatever we decide is the government doing what we think it should do is good. No. No. Government exists to secure the natural rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness of each individual citizen, not of masses of people, not of the nation as a whole, but each individual citizen. Well, what that means is, Bill, you get to do things that I hate, and I get to do things that you detest, and that's okay. You know, and you and I are friends, so we can talk about that. We can try to convince each other, but we don't have the right to use government as a cudgel or even as a scalpel to try to manage each other. That's not how this works. That's not how it's supposed to work. And of course, what we got now is everybody wants to grab the cudgel and beat the other guys into submission and make the nation in their own image. Well, the thing is, we don't have a right to make the nation in our image. What we have a right to do is make our own lives in our image, and then watch as our neighbors do the same, and go on about our lives.
Well
so
said.
What I think actually needs to happen, the tactical response, or actually the operational response, would be that hopefully Mr. Trump and his crew, and hopefully I'll be a part of that, will go out there and will dismantle the illicit powers of government, will restructure the government to do what it's supposed to do, and then maybe he will see, like I have, that it's time to move on and let somebody who has more of a centrist view, and by centrist I don't mean compromised or anything like that, standing up for these principles. When I say centrist, I mean constitutional. That's where I believe the center should be. But someone else who can bring everybody together, who can come behind him and build where he tore down. But the tearing down has to take place. You have to cut the trees down. You got to remove the rocks before you can plow the field, before you can plant the seed, before you can reap the harvest. And the thing is, the first part's got to take place.
We have 1 minute left.
You got to clear the rubble before the fire starts.
But in the case of George Washington could have been king, but he chose not to.
Perfect example.
But the people were willing to accept him as king, but he chose not to. Do we have those examples today on either party? If somebody had an opportunity to be king, both Republican or Democrat, don't you think they would take it?
30 seconds. Marshall, you get to answer that one.
I do, absolutely. I do not see any of those examples, and that is the very root of the concern that I'm trying to express here.
Marshall, very much enjoyed the conversation this morning. I would have enjoyed it more had you been in here in studio.
Yeah, let me echo that. Let me echo that as well. I really enjoyed your comments as well, Marshall. Well done.
Thank you, Marshall.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good day.
You, gentlemen. Y'all take care.
You too, sir. S. Marshall Wilson.